Hey folks, John with Alternate Arms, your friend in less than lethal self-defense. All right guys, you've asked for it. I'm going to show you. I am sorry it's taken this long, but I want to show you exactly what you get with that retro game system that you guys have seen you've seen me put up pictures and stuff on the community tab down there when we go out and we do the trade shows. Now, I've got two different versions of this. I've got one of them that's got about 25,000 games, and I've got one which has got about 93,000 games and a whole bunch of really cool stuff I want to show you. So sit back and grab your popcorn. Here goes the ride. Now, I know that this is outside of what I would consider my normal content, right? We don't usually get into the games so much as the hardware or, everything else. You know how that is. But I wanted to share this with you so you guys can actually see what we're doing and show you, if you have a Batocera system, how to navigate the menus a little bit. So, as you can see, I've actually got Batocera up on this screen right now, and this is the current image. As you can see from the bottom left there, we are currently sitting at 92,863 games, and that will grow. That will grow. I'm working on a few other systems right now, but we'll get back to that. So, whenever you boot up this system directly in Batocera, by the way, this is the actual system that we're talking about right here, guys. If you just plug it in, turn it on, it connects HDMI to any system or TV out there or monitor, whatever you want to use, and just boot it up and don't touch a thing. It's going to run through one of 22 different intros and then kick you directly into the game system here. Now, to kind of give you an idea of the game systems that are on here, obviously, guys, let's be honest, 93,000 games is silly, right? Nobody's ever going to play that. Most people are going to play the same 5 to 10 games all the time. So, the first thing we added on this menu here was a favorites folder. Now, from that all games folder, you can actually access all 93,000 games alphabetically. But to make it a little easier, we did have a favorites folder. So, if you guys have got a game that you like a lot, you can simply add it to this folder so you don't have to constantly research up your games. From that point, we broke it down into actual game systems. So Sega Genesis, Real 32, Panasonic, you gotta love those guys. Nintendo 3DS, Amiga, Amstrad, Apple. Yeah, Apple II. Every Atari game for every Atari system ever made. My old timers, you know who you are, and me. Yeah, you know those games. Every ColecoVision game, Commodore. One more time, you know those games. Now, Commodore is a cool one. You can connect the keyboard and a mouse, but I do have an on-screen keyboard built onto that one too, which you can just access by hitting one button on the controller. We will go into that here in just a minute. Now, Commodore PET, the VIC-20, Laserdisc games. These are Daphne. We're talking about games like Dragon's Lair and Space Ace, those kind of games. These are IBM games. These are actually DOS games. So if you go through here, you're going to see some of the greatest DOS games ever. Warcraft, Warcraft 2, StarCraft, Ultima. And if you go down here, by the way, guys, take a look at that. Yes, that actually works. I put that on as a joke for a guy because he wanted to play Minesweeper, but it's fully functional and it works. I thought you'd get a kick out of that. So, going on, Dreamcast, Famicom. Now, the Final Burn Neo, these are arcade games. There's actually a little over 4,000 arcade games on here if you split up the Neo Geo, FB Neo, and the arcade games, the MAMEs. So, Game & Watch. For those of you who don't know what that is, back in the old days, and I'm going to bring this up on screen here and show you a couple of these pictures. See these? See how they're digital, little LCD stuff? These were the ones you would actually get on watches back in the old days, or the little tiny handhelds. Dude, I got in so much trouble with these things in the late 80s. We won't go into that though. So, by the way, if you take a look at the controller here, guys, you've got a green button and a red button. Now, I'm intentionally not going to call that A and B, which it actually is. Anytime you want to go into a menu, you're going to press A. That will also take you into a game, okay? If you hit B from anywhere, like if we go into the Game & Watch there, and then we hit the B button here, you're going to see it goes back to the main menu. So B is back. A is in, B is back. Green is in, red is back. Keep that in mind. And I'll tell you why that's important in just a second. So, Game Boy. Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color. All of your Game Boy games are covered. Game Gear, GameCube. The GX400 Amstrad is such a crazy system. So the Atari Jaguar, if you guys haven't seen that, this is a really neat system. Honestly, they were way ahead of their time, and they probably would still be in business if they not marketed it wrong, but we won't get into that either. Lutro games, these are actually 2D platformers. These are new games that people are making old games out of, if that makes sense. Check this out. Now, if you can look at that and tell me well, first of all, if you remember that, you're probably my age. But yes, that's the original Pong. So MAME games are the other half of your arcade games. MAME stands for Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator. That's what that is. So Sega. Now, all of the Sega systems are on here, but here's your Master System. In television, Sega Mega Drive. So MSX1, MSX Turbo, and MSX2. These are all the MSX series from Europe on the actually little computers are pretty cool. Look kind of like something like the Commodore over there, but not quite. One of these days I'll get an MSX. I've got a couple of them. So Neo Geo CD. Neo Geo were arcade games. So once again, your big fighting games. So those are the ones you're going to be looking for in Neo Geo. But not only them, they have a ton of other sports games and 2D shooters and platformers and everything else. So Neo Geo Pocket, Neo Geo Pocket Color. Guys, these are impossible to find anymore. They really are. Now, Nintendo 64. This is one really cool thing about the system that I do like. The Nintendo 64 games, back when Nintendo 64 came out, didn't run very well. And if you guys had one, you know what I'm talking about specifically, like GoldenEye. But on this game system, they run like butter because you're dealing with far more advanced system here than Nintendo 64 ever actually had. So they literally play like they're brand new, smooth as glass, no lagging, none of that kind of stuff, which is really cool. So the 64 DDs, these were only available in Japan. Once again, this is a pretty cool folder to go through. The Nintendo DS. Now, everybody's been asking me about DS and 3DS, okay? These are games that I started adding recently because it was a little tough to get around the whole concept of having two screens, but I did it, yeah. So, Nintendo, the regular Nintendo and Super Nintendo are both on here. Odyssey, Open Bore. Now, the Open Bore games are pretty cool. These are also all fighting games, as you can see. PC Engine. Now, the PC Engine, CD-ROM, and PCFX, these are all part of the same TurboGrafx family. So all of these are, once again, some of the greatest old school games ever. You're going to love them. They're fighting games. So original PlayStation. Now, I have started porting in a lot more of the original PlayStation and PlayStation 2. And guys, I've actually been able to port in some PlayStation 3, Xbox, and even early Xbox 360 using this hardware. So this system is actually getting more and more powerful. So PlayStation 2, PSP. I recently added God of War. Among other games that are on here, I added God of War because people were requesting it. That and Persona. People were always asking about that too. So Pokemon Mini. Now ports is really a cool folder. So these are exactly what they look like as far as games. But what's really cool to me is, number one, I've got a browser built into this. You can launch a browser if you got it connected to the internet and surf the web. That is not necessary though, and I'll show you why in just a second. This is a full version of Minecraft, which you can play on a local server or you can actually play it online. And yes, that is a full version of Steam, which means that you can run all of your Steam games. You can actually launch that and load games onto the system that were designed for Linux on this operating system, which once again isn't that important, and we'll get back to that in a minute. So Satellaview, Sega Saturn, the ScumVM are the point and click games. We're talking like the Leisure Suit Larry, 7th Guest, 11th Hour. If you haven't played these games, you truly owe it to yourself to give them a shot. But Sega CD, Super Game Boy, Super Nintendo, gotta have it. Super Graphics, the Supervision, the TI-99. Now, that's a TI-99. So I know there are going to be purists out there. They're going to say, I want to play on the original hardware. And guys, I do too. But it got to where if I wanted to jump on the TA99 and play a game of adventure, I didn't want to have to find the system, break it out with the power supply, which I wasn't even sure was still functional, get an adapter cable to adapt it from the RF off that directly into an HDMI port, and then find the cartridge and play the game when I could just have it all in one place. That was the entire concept of this. I love retro. Duh, right? But I also like efficiency, and it's a lot more efficient. So, all right, so Oozebox, Vectrix. Vectrix is cool, guys. We're going to stop there for 1 second. Line art graphics. Do you guys remember Battlezone? So check this out. These are some of the original line art graphics games. And yeah, everybody, note how that's called All Good Things. And what is it? It is actually asteroids. That's right. So as you go through these, you guys can see and get an idea of exactly what they are. They are wonderful. Berserk. Dude, seriously. But yeah, line art graphics. Virtual Boy. For the record, I hate this system. I'm just saying, because every game is the color of this shirt and it gives me a headache. But the games were good. They just were poorly done. It was kind of Nintendo's first attempt at virtual reality. So yes, you can play the games, but as you can see, they're all in red. So yeah, have fun with that. Wii and Wii U, I have just started bringing in. And I want to show you guys, Wii's kind of cool because it kind of shows you how my thought process works. So if you go into the Wii folder, the ones that you see here that are titled, these have been tested, vetted, and are working perfectly. These are fully functional, but I haven't vetted them yet, which means that I haven't titled them yet. That's how I remember how to do it. So we'll just call that a little surprise for you. Yeah. So Wii U, one game so far, Mario Kart 8, the one that everybody keeps asking about. So that's the first one that we got imported in there. Windows games, guys, this one is incredibly important to me. I am a huge Windows gamer. I always have been. So if you go through here, you're going to see some games that are absolute legends. And I'm talking about some of the greatest of the great games. A lot of people played Baldur's Gate 2, Battlefield, Borderlands, Call of Duty, all of the greatest games, all of them on the same system. Now, guys, Xbox. There is one game in the Xbox folder, and let me tell you why. Jet Set Radio Future is an absolute litmus test for any emulation system. If you're running anything, and I don't care if it's the original stuff we were running on those the Atomic Pies, or even when we started going up to the slightly heavier Atopnics, that was the litmus test. If it can run that, it can run all the way up through PS2 without a problem. It runs that like butter. So, in the future, I will be able to get more Xbox games on here. That's, well, yeah, one man, one time, right? So, Sinclair and ZX81. Now, guys, I want you to check this out. You ain't say nothing yet. Now, I'm going to reboot the system. Now, there is a very serious chance you may have noticed that we're recording video directly onto a video capture instead of having Stumpy aimed at the TV. I did that intentionally. I wanted you guys to be able to kind of get a feel for what I was going through, but actually see it live so you can see what it looks like. But if you hit the start button on the controller, okay, the start button, we're going to go down here, we're going to go to quit, and we're going to restart the system. Now, if you touch nothing and let it reboot, it's going to play one of the intros like we talked about, and then it's going to go directly into the system. However, if you tap F7 on your keyboard, now you guys should be seeing this. I don't know if you're going to until I get to the editing stage, so I may have to shoot this entire video again. Tap F7, and as you can see, go down to Windows Boot Manager, press Enter. You are now going to boot into a fully functioning version of Windows 11. This system has got 2 hard drives on it. It has got a 256 gig NVMe drive, which is driving Windows 11. It's got a 1 terabyte SATA SSD that is driving the game system. So you are on 2 separate hard drives, but as you can see, it boots into a fully functional version of Windows 11, which means that it's not only a game system now, it is actually a home appliance, something that you can use at your house to work on other than just gaming. Now, to me, that's important. I have done some light gaming on this, and it runs perfectly. I mean, flawlessly. I've never had a problem with anything on it. I've run games up to Fortnite on low graphics, runs great. I've run Baldur's Gate on it. I've run Sons of the Forest on it on low graphics. It ran great. Don't even try Helldivers because that thing chews up big systems. But yeah, just saying. All right, so from within Windows, as you guys can see, let me show you the, since we're here, I'll give you the system specs so you can see what we're looking at. There you go. It is the Intel N95. It's actually running right now, base core is 1.7. It boosts up to 3.4, which is why it runs so good on the retro game systems. You've got 8 gigs of RAM, which is expandable to 32 if you wanted to, very easily. So, and as you can see, we have a fully licensed version of Windows 11 Pro on the system. It's not a hack, which is great. Bluetooth 5.1 is built into this thing, as well as USB 3.0 or 3.2. You got those on here too. It's got everything built into it. It also has 2 HDMI ports, which means that you can run out to dual monitor using Windows 11. You can't use it in the game system. One of the HDMI ports, when you get them, is actually plugged. That way you don't plug into the wrong one for the game system. It will only operate off of one, but Windows itself will operate off 2 without a problem. So let's go ahead. I'm going to reboot this system. There we go, and we're going to restart it. And we're just going to let this go through a regular reboot cycle without messing with it. Now, assuming there's no updates, because Windows will auto-update and we are connected to the internet. Here we go. All right. Like I said, I did a mixture of intros. So you've got some RetroPie, you've got some Batocera, you've got some Rick and Morty, just saying. You've got some really cute stuff on here, dude. It really is cool. So, all right, let her go. And guys, I will probably mute out the audio. Oh, this is one of my favorite. All right. You get the idea. So it will boot directly into the system right now, and I wanted a representation of every system. So Batocera, Recalbox, and RetroPie, all of it's on here since it's going to be running all those games anyway. This is how you were seeing those packaged up. And as you guys can see, game system is in there, HDMI cable, power cable, one controller, and the instruction sheet, which is a one-off. But the good news is with a video like this, you shouldn't have to worry about that too. One other cool thing about this is if it is connected to the internet, it does auto update. So that makes it even better, keeps the system up to date without a problem. So guys, I wanted to show you how to navigate around a little bit in Batocera. This is a very high level. Obviously we didn't go into changing emulators and all that kind of stuff, which we can do another video if somebody's interested in that. But this is how the systems that you saw me with at the shows, this is how they go. So the other ones are built on the back of a Raspberry. They've got all of the games on here up to very few Nintendo 64s. So certainly nothing in the PS2 era, nothing in the Windows era, nothing like that, no Wii's and all that kind of stuff. But earlier games, it'll run those, but it won't run any of those more advanced games. So just FYI, if you're interested in one of those, let me know too. But I will have all of these on the website in the next day or so. So keep an eye out for them if you are interested in one of those. Beyond that, this has been a great tour. I wanted to show you. Have a fantastic week, guys. The next couple of weeks are going to be pretty tumultuous for me. They've got me running all over the place with my day job. Focus on the channel. Focus on the channel. One of these days I can see the channel taking it over, but we'll see what happens. Have a great night. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.